You guys are welcome to get on camera. It's always good to actually have the interaction, or you guys can be on mute. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Our goal for today is one thing and one thing only, is to help you or teach you how to use AI to analyze user feedback. Listen, as product managers, we know how important it is to listen to our users. When I used to run product at Google and, well, at IBM, everything that we did started off with listening to our user needs. But we also know how long it takes, and it can be time consuming. It can take a lot of effort. AI helps us change that equation. What could take days, we can actually now do in minutes or less than an hour, which is what I'm going to show you. So to help you get to our goal today, I like to do three things with you guys. First, I'm going to start off with a quick story. I'm going to talk about Anna, real person, change the name. And I'm going to show you how Anna performs a really quick sentiment analysis using app reviews. Then we're going to go into anatomy of a well-structured prompt. Why does this prompt behave the way it does? What makes it deliver such high quality results? And we'll go into that. And then third is I'm going to give you step-by-step directions so that you can, right after this lightning lesson, you can actually do the analysis yourself. With that being said, let's jump in. We only have 30 minutes. I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions and answers. As for me, my name is Mustafa Kapadia. I was head of product and innovation for Google. I used to run the accelerators throughout the world. Prior to that, I used to run product at IBM. I've been in the product space, I can't believe this, for 20 years. But I love this. I love talking about product. I can talk about this till the cows come home. Sometimes I don't even need an audience. You can talk to my wife, and she's probably gets sick and tired of me talking about product. I've left Google since then, and since then I've been a full-time product coach. I'm an AI advisor and, of course, a teacher. And you can follow me on LinkedIn and newsletter, and I have a newsletter. I actually put a link in our chat. So all the resources that we're going to talk about today is in that link, and I'll show you that link with you at the end of our class too. So let's get into it. Yes, so I'm going to introduce you to Anna. Like I said, real person, just change the names, change the places, just to protect the innocent. So this is Anna. I'm sure we can all identify with her. She is passionate about building great products. She's ambitious, but she's also very much overworked. She's a senior PM. She has 5 years of experience. She works at Figma. She's very customer-centric. She's detail-oriented, but she supports multiple products. But she also has this tendency of taking on too much work because she wants to make her stakeholders happy. Today, unfortunately, Anna is feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Her VP of product just came to her and said, hey, can you actually help us analyze customer reviews at the App Store? We've been seeing a lot of negative reviews, and I want to figure out what's going on. And maybe there's things that we can do to build. And so what the VP is asking her to do is he needs a positive and negative sentiment analysis with positive and negative reviews, and what are some of the new features that are requested. Now, usually it takes Anna anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks to actually pull this together and present something to her VP. But she only has 2 days today. So let's talk about how she would actually do it. Well, let's talk about first how she would actually do it without AI and see if you guys can relate. So number one, what she would have to do is she would download the data from the App Store. She had to clean it. I don't know about you guys, but I hated cleaning data. It's one of the most boring jobs you can get. Then depending on her choice, she can actually analyze it manually. So just dump it in Excel and take a look at it. She can run some fancy macros. She can run some queries, or she can run some tools. But even with tools, like even if you use App Annie or something like that, you still have to set it up. You have to tell her what good is, what bad is. All of that takes time. And once she has that, then she has to send up writing a report. She has to create a short summary. She has to tell them, how many reviews we got positive, how many reviews we got negative. And while she's doing all this, remember, she's supporting multiple products. So the other work starts piling up. And so now she's behind on something else. And the only hope she has, because it's such a short timeline, is that she hopes that her VP is not disappointed. And you guys have been this before, right? You do some analysis and you're hoping that nobody pokes a hole in the analysis, or because you've tried to do it so quickly, hopefully you can have confidence in it. And so usually, she's trying to squeeze 20 hours of work that takes her about 2 weeks in 2 days, right? So now let me walk through what Anna will do with AI, and I'm actually going to go through it, and then we'll actually do a break down. So with Anna, what she does is with AI, she actually goes to she downloads the data. We still have to do that. Here's a quick view of what that looks like, and she just dumps it in Excel, by the way. And I think for now, to make it easy, I just have about 100 rows, but you can see the source, the title, the content, and you can take a look at the content. There's no cleaning, right? She's taking everything there is. Names, rating, version. That's her source file. Then she goes into what I call my AI playbook. She actually looks for synthesize user feedback. She goes to that prompt. All she's doing here is she's going to copy the whole thing, and we're actually going to walk down. We're going to break this prompt down. But let me just show with you what's possible first. She's going to take that. She's going to use Claude, and there's a reason for me to use Claude. Again, I'll get through that too. She's going to add the Figma file, or the Figma data, sorry. And there you go. And she's off to the races. Now, this will take about 30 seconds to run. The reason I chose Claude and I did not choose ChatGPT is simply because when it comes to analysis, I find Claude to be much better at looking at the needle in the haystack. You can run this in ChatGPT too. You can run it in Gemini too, but you'll notice that the quality of results are much better. And one of the things that you guys will have to get used to is that as you start using AI, you'll find out that each LLM behaves just a little bit differently. And knowing each LLM for what it does well and what it does not do well is part of the battle in figuring out how you want to automate a task. But here you go. In less than 30 seconds, now Anna has what would take her 20 hours. Positive feedback about a summarization of what the positive was and how many people said that. Negative feedback, same thing. Most features requested, how many people, the count. Some of the competitors mentioned, and she has a summary as well of what she can now then put this into some kind of PowerPoint, or she can just send it as an email, however she wants to do it, and as well as some quotable notes. I always used to ask my team to give me quotes from the users just to kind of make it real, and so AI can do that for you too. But you literally saw that something that used to take me and my team at least 20 hours over 2 weeks. If you have a well-structured prompt, you can actually literally do it in minutes. So let's go back to Anna. This is the prompt we use. Again, we're gonna break this prompt down step by step in the next section. So this is what Anna's day looks like with AI, right? She still has to download the data. You can get away from that. AI agents are not there yet, but they will get there. But there's no cleaning, which, by the way, is a huge time savings, right? She can run an analysis on a pre-built, reusable prompt. So the prompt we use right now, you can use it for not just the app data, but you can use it for your ticket data. You can use it for different data. You can do it for different times. So it's the same prompt. You just keep changing the data. You'll keep getting great results. And I'm a big fan of write once, keep using it. That's why I write my prompts a certain way. They're called the long prompts. Now it doesn't mean that she takes everything that the AI spits out verbatim. She still needs to do some review. She does need to analyze it. She needs to finalize it. But review, editing, finalizing doesn't take that long. And then she continues with other work. So the other work that's piling up, she doesn't have to worry about that. And now she knows that when she goes to the VP, she has the confidence that her analysis is solid. She can point to all of these things. She doesn't have to worry about biases, right? Because when we do our analysis or when we're looking through our data, we always have internal biases. We can try to we can try to be as unbiased as before, but you never know where your biases creep in. And so with AI, you can actually get a unbiased view. And then ultimately, what it means for her is it took her an hour. It took 20 minutes, 20 hours is now an hour. Of that 1 hour, you really think about it, is 10 minutes is really using the AI. That's all it takes. In 10 minutes, I'm being generous here. We literally did this in less than a minute or two. And then 50 minutes, so to speak, to downloading data and maybe reviewing finalizing. And so if you think about the power of using AI, or you think about Anna's experience, she literally saved 19 hours. Her velocity improved from 2 weeks to 1 hour. But she didn't sacrifice quality. In fact, her quality increased. She had a much deeper analysis, a much more rigorous analysis. And most importantly, she knows that she can now make her stakeholder happy. Right? And so if you use AI correctly, all of these benefits can be yours as well. And so it's just a matter of how you write your prompts. And so let's go into that. Like, why does our prompt work the way it works, right? Now, most people, when they approach this task, they usually put something like, please analyze the attached file, please give me positive or negative reviews. That's how most PMs would approach this task. Now, the problem with that prompt is that it's just not enough data or context for the AI to actually do something with it. When you don't give AI a lot of context, what AI does is it guesses for you. It guesses what kind of format you want it. It guesses what kind of analysis you want to do. And so you will never get what you're really looking for. So in order for you to get exactly what you want from your AI, is that you have to think about it in these, what I call the 5 keys. And this is really how you actually unlock and get great relevant responses. The first one is you have to assign it a role. You have to tell it what persona you want it to take. In our prompt, we assigned it the role about you're one of the best PMs out there who can analyze user reviews. Then we need to give it the right input. For our input is relatively easy. It is just attaching the Figma file, as you can see, without actually doing anything to the data. Then we give it specific instructions. Here you'll see in my prompt that I get very specific about what I want the AI to do. I tell it how to analyze the data. I tell it what to look for. I tell it what are the type of best practices to put in, and we'll go into all of these. Then I tell you the specific format. So I'm not going to let the AI guess what I want. I'm going to tell the AI exactly how I want the information. And then I'm going to give it examples. Now, I don't give it examples in this piece. I do it with all my other, or most of my other prompts, only because when it comes to analysis, when you give the examples, it actually skews the results. So when it comes to analysis, I usually don't give examples. But for all the other ones, like brainstorming, writing requirements, so on and so forth, I always give examples. So let's go into it, right? So when you think about synthesized user feedback, this is exactly the same prompt that we used earlier. The first one is assign the LLM a role, right? So like I said, you're the most experienced person when it comes to building great products. Act like an expert in synthesizing user feedback. By assigning a role, you're actually basically, quote unquote, what you're doing is you're giving the AI a job, or you're giving them a job description. Then you put in the input. That was fairly easy. Just upload the file. With instructions, you have to be a bit more specific about what are some of the best practices you want AI to follow. So I always say when analyzing, please use a structured methodology for sorting and analyzing feedback. Try best to recognize and actively mitigate biases that might influence analysis. Always prioritize feedback that offers clear insight into potential actions and decisions. So these are just things, we as PMs, when we review our data, we do these things in the back of our heads. We just do it because that's how we have actually been trained to analyze data. But the AI doesn't know that. The AI is just a large language model. And so you want to give it specific instructions about how you want it to analyze data. And if you're wondering where I got this from, you can actually go and look at any best practices out there, and you can put that together in your instructions. And then you say, okay, now you have how I want you to do it. Then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, what I want you to do. And I want to do positive, negative, features, competitives, and the frequency. And so now what I've done is I've given it a role, or I've given it a job. I've given it information, and I've tell them how to do it and what to do. Next, I'm going to tell it in what format I want it. And you can see how much time I've spent on the format. And in the format, I tell them positive feedback, negative feedback, and I want a quick summary on each one of those. And I want it only in one sentence. By the way, you can make it as big or as small as you want it. I can tell it the mention count. I can talk about the competitors mentioned, the features requested. I give it a short summary, and like put short summaries in less than 400 words, but you can make it as big as you like or as short as you like. And then you can put notable quotes. Now, I promise you, if you keep using this again and again, because of the way we've written our prompt, you're going to get high quality results each and every time, and much faster. Like I said, I don't use the fifth key because when you do analysis, you don't want an example to influence the answers. But with the other ones, with some of the other tasks that I automate, you do. And by the way, the 5 keys that we just talked about right now can help you automate a lot more, right? We just talked about synthesizing user reviews. But if you look at it, here are all the tasks that you can automate. Let's go to the top. Here's all the tasks that you can automate if you use the 5 keys. Brainstorm new product and features, epics, write narratives. You can align and categorize narratives to corporate themes. You can do feature prioritization. You can create product summaries. You can generate product statement. You can create personas. You can create journeys, jobs to be done. We just did a whole bunch of user research with interview questions. You can do SWOT analysis. You can do some UI, UX stuff. You can do a lot of generation of features or user stories, acceptance criteria, non-functional features, PRD summaries, you name it. You can do release notes is my favorite because I used to hate writing release notes. But with this, it's like a quick click of a button. You can do go-to-market research on your competitors. You can actually crawl through the internet and actually find your industry trends or to help you customer segmentation. And of course, you can generate OKRs, you can generate metrics, and so on and so forth. Each one of these, the reason that they work is simply because they follow the 5 keys. So let me go through one of them. You'll notice that this one has a role, it has an input, it has instructions, it has a format, it has good examples. And it's one of the reasons why we have been able to generate high quality results with just doing the first prompt. I'm a big fan of, like I said earlier, write your prompt once, do it well, keep reusing it. And I keep reusing this by keeping the black that you see on the screen the same and just updating the red, because the red will keep updating, so to speak. Let me go to, I know we have some comments, so let me go to the questions first. How is analysis done? Oh, sorry. I love the storytelling approach. Thanks, Harsha. How about AI hallucinations? So I think that's a great question. Because you're forcing the AI to look only at the document, you are reducing the chances of hallucination. You're not eliminating it. But what you can do is, number one, is by having the count, you can always do a manual count, which is why I tell you that part of this is you have to go and review the data, and you have to make sure that what the AI is telling you is giving you accurate information. So that's one way. The second way that you can reduce the risk of hallucination is that you use a different LLM. So a lot of times, if you have, by the way, the prompt that we wrote, that prompt can go across any LLM and will still give you great results. So you can take that same prompt, put it in ChatGPT, or you can put the same prompt in Gemini, and it will give you great results. And by doing that, you can compare the results and you can see if there's any discrepancies. And that's another way to reduce hallucination. So you can never reduce it or make it to zero, but you can dramatically reduce the risk of it. And unfortunately, I don't know what people will tell you, but there's no way that you can reduce or eliminate hallucinations, because that's just not how AI is built, right? Large language models don't really, they're probability matching machines. They'll tell you what is the most probable word that comes afterwards. So there's no way, it's inherent. Hallucinations, or what I call creativity, is inherent in your in AI. And by the way, if you know how to use hallucinations, or if you know how to use creativity, it can actually give you new ideas that you could have never thought about. Sanket has a question, says, how is analysis done by AI tools like Claude or ChatGPT accepted in organizations in general? I'm not sure if I understand the question. The question is not about how you do the analysis. The question is the output. And if your output is great, that's really what I used to care about, and that's really what the VP cares about, right? In our example. So as long as you can stand by your output and your results are of high quality, I'm not sure if, unless you have an organization that is against using AI, right? Then that's a whole philosophical debate. How do we get around confidential information rules in our companies? Through cleanup, taking out confidential information? Great idea, great question. So in our example, since we use public data, we didn't actually have to worry about it. But let's just say that you actually had real customer data, for example. So the way around it is, number one is, like you said, April, what you can do is you can just remove the customer names. And you can actually have a separate file in which you can, instead of customer names, you can just put a number on it, so you can identify the customer. And then you can always go back and you can run that data in it. You can run the analysis with that data, and then just match it up afterwards. It's a little bit of an extra step, but if you really are worried about some sensitive type of data, then I would recommend you take that one extra step. Second is, depending on how you use the LLM, if you use the paid version, they actually don't use your data for any of the training. So if you use free versions, they use all the data for training. But if you pay for it, they actually have specifically that they don't use the data. And by the way, when you do the paid version, there's a specific toggle in your settings that you can say, please don't use any of my data for training. And so that's another way to get around. And so you'll see a lot of companies who are now focusing on are buying paid versions of their employees for their employees, so that they can actually get around it. What's your favorite method of downloading the raw data to feed AI? I think that's great. I think everybody has their favorite. I think I just use App Annie, because I think it's a free version that I used to actually just download it, and I gave it a time frame, and I just dumped it into CSV file. But I think everybody uses whatever is their favorite. I have another one. What techniques or tactics do you use to ensure completeness of the analysis? I face instances in my prompt where the analysis looks complete, but upon further review, it was reading the first few lines and the last few lines of the file. I think that's a fantastic question, Fernando. I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is number one is you always want to do your reviews and your spot checks. Number two is use different LLMs to cross-check. And if you use different LLMs to cross-check, you'll be able to find out. And if you suspect that LLMs are only focusing on the top and the bottom of your data, by the way, that does happen when the data does become too big. And so sometimes you might want to break the files up. Move the data around, right? Take the stuff in the middle and put it on the top, and then see if the analysis changes. The key here is that as you get used to using this more and more, and as you get used to writing prompts in a certain way, you'll get a cadence and you'll get a good feeling about when the data is good and when the data is not, right? When I go through the students in my course, I said that, learning how to use AI or large language models is a lot like learning how to leverage a person or an intern. Eventually, you'll kind of know the cadence of what works and what doesn't work. Like, how do you talk to an intern? How do you talk to somebody else? You'll just know that there's certain ways that when you talk to them in a certain way, it gives you better results. And understanding or getting to that cadence takes a little bit of time. But once you get there, it makes your life so much easier. I mean, I've been doing this for so long, for the last year and a half, that I generally, when I take a look at the results, I usually know very quickly if it's thorough or not. But that's just because I've been doing it for so long. And by the way, that's another point. Everything that you see here, all the things that you saw in the playbook, is a result of me helping some PM solve some problem in which we automate the task. I'm a big believer in taking real life scenarios and then automating them as opposed to just making things up. Thank you, Fernando. Harsha, I have some questions that I'd like to talk live. Harsha, we can talk later, or you can ping me, yes? Okay, so we have about 4 minutes left, so let me kind of bring it home. So how do you analyze your own customer reviews? So here are the steps. Very simple, 4 steps. We've kind of talked about it, but I'm gonna repeat it. Download your app data, and by the way, you can use for app reviews, you can use ticket data, you can use interview transcripts, but the prompts remain the same. Download your stuff. Go to Claude. I highly recommend Claude over the others, but you can use others as well to cross-check. Use my pre-built prompt. And by the way, there's a link in the top of the chat that will give you all the resources that we had today. And there's a link that's coming up too. And then run it in a new window. And by the way, run it in a new chat window. Don't use a previous chat window, because that doesn't mess up the analysis. But that's about it. Now, if you like what you heard and you like what you saw, consider joining my bootcamp. The focus of the bootcamp is really 3 things. Number 1 is to teach you how you can save 10 hours per week. Teach you how to automate any of the PM tasks so that you can save 10 hours a week. Second is, it's not just about saving time. It's about delivering high quality results, improving your creativity so you can impress your stakeholders. And last but not the least is that it really is about reclaiming your time. It's your time. You spend so much time on tedious work. If you can reclaim that time, imagine what you can do with that time. You can focus on things that matter, things that will either work on strategic projects or either just give you more work-life balance. My next bootcamp starts on November 5th. In my opinion, it's the easiest way to acquire all the skills you need to automate your work. With that being said, oh, here you go. By the way, this is you can take a picture of this, or you can use the link in the chat. That will give you all the resources. Once this recording is over, I'll upload it into the document or into the page, and then it has my mini playbook. So a smaller version of the playbook that I just saw that should have not just the synthesized user prompt, but it has a whole bunch of other prompts that are the most popular ones that I've seen. And then, of course, you can access my newsletter, or you can connect me on LinkedIn. Let me see if you have any more questions. Yes, great, 4 questions. So I'll put the link in. There you go. Thank you, Harsha, for putting the link in. I appreciate that. And let me see if there's any more questions. Seda, thank you for the kind words. And how can we access the full version of the playbook? Gohar, great question. If you join my my bootcamp, that's when you get the playbook. This was great. I may do the bootcamp. Thank you, April. We would love to see you there. Any other questions so far, guys? There is I see a question about the promo code. I actually don't have a promo code, but what I do have is an early bird discount. So I haven't opened it up yet, but I will open up in the next week. You guys are going to get an email, and I think you'll get an early bird discount, and then you can do that. It's much easier that way. This is good. I know we're out of, it's 10:30. I want to be respectful of time, but I'm happy to stick around and answer questions. By the way, just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Was this helpful? Is this going to help you in the future? Good. I see a bunch of thumbs up. I see some smiling faces. always good. This is why I love video, because I can actually get feedback. Um, this is good. Thank you, Jules. Thank you, Irini. Somebody from Sarah, thank you. Gohar, I have your question. Let me answer that. What do you think? And Daniel, bootcamp promo code. So let me see. Harsha, I see a hand raised too, so I'll get to you. So Daniel, let me answer your question. What do you think about building custom GPTs for each type of task? Daniel, that's exactly what I'm doing. In fact, if you actually go to the GPT store and you put in something called PM Co, which is Product Management Copilot, you'll see some of my custom GPTs for each task. And you'll see them for, I think I have about 5 or 6 published so far. And you can use them for free. All you need to do is you put the input, and you'll be able to get the results that you want. So far, I'm going to go deeper into your question if that's okay. So far, to get high quality results, it's better to build custom GPT for each task as opposed to building one PM Copilot for all the tasks that you saw. Simply because we're still dealing with an AI that is finicky. And when you give it one specific instruction to do one thing, it does it much better than if I give it 10,000 prompts and then ask it to run one prompt. So keep that in mind, but you know what? That will change. I'm always experimenting. But good question, Daniel. Like I said, Nick, Aaron, thank you so much. Jules, thank you very much. Gohar, how long did it take to master AI for this purpose? Gohar, fantastic question. Gohar, I have been experimenting with AI since probably January or February of last year, right? And it really started off with, I do a lot of PM coaching, and really started off with some of my PMs saying that, you know, we need to do some work, but we just don't have the time. And I said, you know what? Let me see if I can experiment. And so I really started off with a ChatGPT. First was launched, I think, in January, February of last year. And it started off with me automating 5 prompts. And by the way, when I automate a prompt, I'm really looking for not just that it spits out response, because anybody can get you to get AI to spit out response. When I do it, I have a really high threshold. My threshold is number 1, it has to give me high quality results, which is not easy to do. And it took me a long time to figure out the 5 keys. Second is it has to save me time, and not just time. I'm looking at least saving me 60 to 70% of time and effort. Third is I want to do minimum sparring. Like I don't want to sit down and spar with the GPT or with AI, because that to me ultimately is very frustrating. I wanted to give it an instructions, I want to give it input, and I want it to give me the response I want so I can move on, which I know works against what most people tell you. But listen, when I'm doing my work, I'd rather give an intern instructions, tell the intern to come back to me with a response so I can move on, as opposed to sparring. And the fourth one is that I want it to be reusable. So I want to write it once, and I want to keep using it again and again and again, which is why that sparring hurts. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And so it started off with 5. And once I got 5 in which I was confident with the quality response, it slowly expanded. And I keep getting expanded. And what you saw right now is about 60 or 70. I actually have another library that's about 100. And so I keep adding more and more based on what I feel is good quality. If it doesn't meet my quality expectations, and I'm quite high, you can talk to my PMs at Google. They probably don't like working for me. Only then it makes it into the playbook. But sorry, that was a very long answer to your question. But to you, Gahar, you don't actually have to go through the pain that I went through. If you join the bootcamp, it teaches you everything that you need so that you can actually get going quickly. In fact, one of the things that I promised in my bootcamp, and you'll notice it on the Maven page, is that by the end of the first session, or by the end of the first hour of the first session, I'm going to teach you how to automate at least 30 PM tasks right away. And you'll be able to do it in a way and a fashion that is that you yourself will be surprised. I hope that helped. Go her. Let's see, Tizina, thank you very much. Would you mind type in the chat the name of the app you mentioned for downloads and reviews? I did not get it. It's called App Annie, and I will put it down. I will put it in app. I think it's appannie.com or appannie.io. I'm not sure. Thanks for the bird code. That works. Thank you, Harsha. Nick, how do you add learning to creating bots for specific tasks, or even realize it needs improvements? You know, Nick, here's the thing. I don't know if I want to, and maybe we're not there yet. I don't know if I really want my AI bot to tell me that it needs to improve, because ultimately I want to be the judge to know if the AI task or GPT is doing what I want it to perform. If it's not performing up to my expectations, then I need to change the way I write the prompt, or to change the way the AI GPT is performing, or the code is performing, so to speak. So ultimately, I want to be the decider or the arbiter that if it's good or not good enough, so to speak. You can always have other AI. I think there's people out there who say that, well, if you use your prompt and you put it into our little module, it will tell you if the prompt is good enough or not, and so on and so forth. I think that's great, to be honest with you. You can do that. But if you use the 5 keys, and the reason why they arrange in a certain way, you will get great results and know how to tweak it. I know there's a bunch more questions, but Harsha, thank you for being patient. I'm going to go to you, and I'll go through the rest of the questions in chat.
Thank you, Mustafa, and I'm sure I'll follow up with you later. But the main thing I wanted to ask was, would it be possible to add something to your fantastic repository? I have some things that I've worked on, like, for example, calculating TAM, SOM, SAM, and things like that, and this thing. So let me know if that's something like a person like me can add, following your best practices, of course.
Yes, definitely, Harsha, without a doubt, yes. In fact, if not only is it possible, I highly encourage it. Okay. A lot of the stuff that you see in the playbook is result of projects that students have done. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big believer in the bootcamp of getting your hands dirty. So everybody sits down and automates a task, and then some of them, like you, Harsha, who have shown interest, actually sit down with me, and then we add it to the bootcamp. And in fact, if you go to my newsletter, you'll see multiple examples of students. Yeah, I believe there's Gail, there's Sharon, there's Katie. There's a whole bunch of them. You notice them, they will all have prompts that they've built that they want to showcase. So Harsha, we can do that. Yeah, in fact, I was inspired by Gail's work on OKRs, and I did a post of my own to. Yes, I think I remember that. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, yes. This is one last specific thing. Yeah. I'm fascinated by the productivity enhancement time metrics, right? Like what you said, from 20 hours to 1. And I think I've spoken about it before, to how to exactly track that very, very discreetly, very step by step, and have a framework to actually show. Yeah. Well, what is this? I've been thinking about that, and perhaps I'd like to talk about that during the course. But let's let's do that, because I am a big fan of measuring that piece. In fact, you didn't hear me today, but I say it all the time to my students. Listen, automation is great, but automation without actually having the productivity gains is really what you care about, right? Yeah. When you automate something, it's going to be cool. When you actually go back and say, oh, wait a minute, I saved this much time and I improved my quality, that's what's going to actually help you get promoted. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make the difference. So I don't focus on just automation for automation's sake. It is really focused on productivity, which is why I have a very concrete number. I'm not saying that we're going to focus on saving you 10 hours per week, every week. And if you add that up, that's 520 hours in a year. That's about 65 free days that you can do whatever you want, including slacking off. That's one of my favorite things. I know we have a few more people. Let me just go through the questions. Some of them may have dropped, but that's okay. They can come back to the recording. Do we cover agentic workflows in the course as well? Yes, actually we do, Nick. In fact, there's a module in which we actually build our own GPTs, and we can talk about we talk about workflows as well. Harsha, I think we're already connected. And by the way, thank you for liking most of my posts. I appreciate that. Would you recommend a boot camp for UX researcher? Lisa, absolutely, without a doubt. You will notice. I'm going to give 2 responses to this. Number 1 is there's a lot of tasks that you can automate, even if you're a UX researcher, right? It's not AI is not there as to give you prototypes yet. It's not there to give you Figma UX yet, but it's coming. So there's a lot of things that you can do with AI right now that will actually help a UX researcher. So that's number 1. Second is a much more philosophical response in which the way things are going, the roles of a PM, an engineering manager, and a UX researcher are blending, right? We are going to get to a point in time in which you will just need to be more versatile in each one of those functions, because I can see a future in which they blend the roles together simply because you're now AI enabled. And so you want to be prepared for that in the future. The way I look at it, if I was in your shoes, is learning how to master AI right now puts you ahead of the curve. If you wait for about a year, year and a half, it will put you at the curve. If you wait for 2 years from now, you're going to be behind the curve. And so if I were in your position, which is why I started the boot camp, is I want my PMs to be ahead of the curve, because you want to be those people who your organization looks to and says, okay, this is the person that I can help either create a whole team around them, or they're the ones who can actually help me elevate the productivity of my own team. I hope that helped, Lisa. Data AI is a great one as well as App Annie. Tiziana, thank you. We'll be happy to connect with you guys. Go her, we can do that. I'm also happy to connect on LinkedIn. So if you looked at, if you go to my to the link here, it will have my LinkedIn connection. You guys can do that. Lisa, agree on the roles blending. Great. There's a lot happening in our profession, so to speak, and there's lots that we can do. In my opinion, there's lots that PMs can do now that will place them or put them in positions that will actually help them accelerate their careers as opposed to chasing, so to speak. Great presentation. Thank you, Tiziana. This is great. Guys, we are way about time, but thank you so much for being with me. Are any other questions before we call it a day? Good. Well, then, thank you very much for giving me 30 minutes, or I should say 44 minutes on your Friday morning or afternoon. Hopefully, I will see all of you at the boot camp, and like I said, it's not open yet, but you'll get the announcement soon. Okay. And by the way, I think Maven, or there's an automation that actually automatically connects you to my newsletter, so you guys can do all of those things as well, so you can benefit from that. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Yes. Bye for now. Thank you, Harsha.